Hello and welcome. Our top story today is from Somalia. For decades, the East African nation has been in dispute with Somaliland, its breakaway region with an administration of its own. Now, the self-declared country in the Horn of Africa has officially suspended dialogue and negotiations with Somalia that could potentially broker peace. This move adds a new chapter to the Somalia-Somaliland row that began in 1991 when Somaliland unilaterally declared independence. The breakaway region has accused Somalia of repeatedly breaching its territorial integrity. But the trigger point for suspending any form of dialogue is a recent visit by Somalia's Prime Minister Hamza Barre to disputed city named Las Anod. Now, this city is at the center of a long-running dispute between the two sides. Las Anod is located in the Sool region, a territory that Somaliland claims as theirs. However, Las Anod is currently controlled by Khaatumo forces who pledge their loyalty to Somalia. Khaatumo forces are local militias who want their regions to be a part of Somalia, not Somaliland. In early 2023, they fought against Somaliland's separatist forces and took control of Las Anod, the same city that Somalia's Prime Minister recently visited. After that, they declared their administration, called the SSC-Khaatumo. Earlier this week, Somalia recognized the SSC-Khaatumo as a federal member state, further widening the differences. This announcement followed the four-day visit by the Somalian Prime Minister. Now, Mogadishu said that this visit was a part of their quote-unquote unity reinforcement mission. However, Somaliland sees the visit as a provocation. The authorities have questioned the purpose of the Prime Minister's visit. It was deemed as a deliberate attempt to incite division and conflict. The new tensions come as a setback for years of peace efforts between the two sides. The conflict in the Horn of Africa carries repercussions far beyond. Though not recognized internationally, Somaliland, which sits in a strategic position, has extensively built foreign ties. Now, according to reports, it is now offering access to its Red Sea coastal base to the United States in exchange for formal recognition. The territory has already forged strong ties with the UAE and Saudi Arabia, with significant infrastructure and security collaboration in place. As relations with Mogadishu unravel, the stakes are growing for the entire Horn of Africa region. Now, could this escalation trigger wider regional fallout? And does the collapse of talks signal the end of hopes for a peaceful resolution? Now, for more on this, we have with us Stella Agara, governance and security analyst. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Stella. Now, what are the implications of Prime Minister Hamza Barre's visit to Las Anod on the fragile dialogue between Somalia and Somaliland?
The visit complicates an already very complicated situation in Somaliland, especially considering that there has been a semblance, of quiet and calm, maybe not peace, during this period of secession, even though Somaliland is not recognized as a territory. I think the visit will definitely interfere with the ongoing and planned talks between the federal government of Somalia and Somaliland, as the Somaliland itself and its administration recognizes this visit as probably destructive and interference with their territory, which they insist on having recognized. And of course, it will definitely interfere with the peace and reconciliation efforts that have been ongoing. I think as an entity that has had elections severally and elected democratic governments, even recently in 2024, they also feel that their territorial integrity is being interfered with. And of course, this poses special issues around the area. I'm glad you've mentioned in your news item that there are actors outside of Somaliland who also have a stake in this conversation. And of course, it really complicates the relationship between Somaliland and Somalia. If, for example, entities like the US come in, of course, there have been complications coming in from the existence of the UAE and the partnerships that they have with Somaliland. And of course, the issues with Ethiopia having agreements with the area. So it just complicates an already complicated situation, Alyson.
Right. And how does the presence of the Khaatumo state forces in the Sool region complicate the broader territorial and political dispute between Somaliland and Somalia?
So a number of things then happen. For a while, Somaliland has been claiming to be an independent state, and of course, the presence of SSC-Khaatumo definitely weakens their stance as an independent state. What this means for Somaliland is definitely a provocation, but what this means for the Federal Republic of Somalia is that they are winning towards maybe reconciliation and a return to some form of normalcy as a single nation. There are other factors, for example, like issues of administration. Some of the agreements that Somaliland has been trying to make were supposed to be beneficial to the people of Somaliland. What does this mean when other forces then find themselves in Somaliland? How will they relate to the locals and the local forces within Somaliland? I think there are questions that need to be answered. It definitely means that they'll be less open to involve themselves in talks, especially because we don't know what amount of coercion could happen in the process. And I guess we are also talking about a more heightened push towards the secessionist agenda, especially because, like I mentioned in my first response, this has definitely come out as a provocation and as a reason for Somaliland to feel that maybe they need to push a little bit harder to be even more independent from the Federal Republic of Somalia. Yeah.
Right. And given the recurring breakdown of talks, what role can regional and international actors play in mediating a sustainable solution between Somalia and Somaliland?
Alyson, strange enough, my first recommendation would be that generally the international community and all of Somalia's, the larger or former Somalia territory, respect international law and relate with those two jurisdictions in the ways that the law require. I think having foreign governments beginning to have agreements with an unrecognized territory is problematic. It's problematic because constantly it looks like they're only engaging with Somaliland, but it defines very specific geopolitical threats and sometimes opportunities that may be an issue to the proponents and the opponents in this conflict. So I think first is to cease with making any agreements with Somaliland, and then secondly, help facilitate fast-tracked talks that will determine whether those two territories will exist separately. I think Somaliland has presented valuable reasons why they should exist as a separate territory, especially by virtue of the fact that on many indices they have proven that they can be peaceful and have peaceful elections and have some form of democracy in their countries, despite the fact that the economy is struggling. But they have demonstrated that with a little bit of support, they should be able to exist as a separate territory. Is this something that they are able to negotiate effectively with the Somalia and accept that they're going to separate? I think this is something that needs to be fast-tracked. There is no value that comes out of having a territory within any part of the world that is not recognized internationally and therefore does not get to participate in the markets, does not get to participate in any of the opportunities available outside of their territory. And of course, the citizens of that place have a right to enjoy what is available for the rest of the world. So I think that is the other. The third one is to end hostilities. And I think a lot of the forces coming from outside are benefiting in one way or the other. And so sometimes they support the hostilities between those two nations. If this could really be curtailed, it would help with the situation and create room for negotiation to be finalized and to allow for a clear understanding to exist on whether these two nations exist as separate entities, and if they exist as one entity, then to put an end to the war. I don't think it is difficult, especially in the present age, to have two leaders sit down, three leaders sit down. I'm struggling with the Puntland situation. Sit down and agree on whether they are going to have autonomy or whether they're going to come together and run the nation either as a federal republic or whatever other mechanisms exist. I mean, there are examples route all over the world on nations that either exist as federal republics like the United States of America, or nations that have devolution of power and every independent devolved unit then has powers of its own. Whatever it is, I think a decision can be reached, and instead of the rest of the world trying to get into individual agreements with an unrecognized territory, they should fast track the process of making it a legitimate territory and then engage with them from a point of benefit on a win-win basis.
Right. Stella, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa.
Thank you for having me.
Greeting you with aloha and namaste.
I love India.
Presence, occupation of a territory by another country pertains to India, what we saw in Kashmir.
The Prime Minister Modi.
How do you see Trump's America?
Yes, the current administration behaves differently from the previous administration.
Are you saying that there are foreign powers who are trying to bring down the current government in Syria?
Exactly.
Bluntly, Iran, maybe Russia too.
Prime Minister Modi committed to South-South, cooperation.
Not over 50%.
Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.